Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So first up, if you haven't checked out my new Kickstarter, I'm going to be launching soon. Make sure you check that out in the description below, as well as the comments below. I think I'll remember to put it there too. But yeah, make sure you follow that and stay tuned for more updates. Regardless, of course, exciting, crazy spoilers. Let's jump into them. First up, we've got Festival of Embers, an enchantment for 5 mana in red. Get ready for this. During your turn, you may cast instant and/or sorcery spells from your graveyard by paying 1 life in addition to paying their other cost. If a card or token will be put in your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. By paying 1 in red, you can sacrifice Festival of Embers. This is pretty crazy. This is just like, hey, your graveyard, if you're casting spells, instant sorceries, you're turning that like basically a second hand. Now you are paying life to get access to those spells, but 1 life is pretty much nothing in Commander. Again, that's 1/40th of your life total. That is nothing. So, yeah, this can be a crazy, crazy card for a Storm type build, I would say. Spellslinger type build. And when you do need to ditch this, you can. So do keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty crazy. So those types of decks can definitely consider something crazy like this one. Next up, Agate Assault. I probably should know how to say that. Anyway, sorcery for 3 mana in red. Choose 1 4 damage target creature. If that creature dies this turn, exile instead, or exile target artifact. It's not the worst kind of removal, but yeah, there's a lot better. So let's skip that. Probably limited card. Next up, Backer's Bane Duo. A 2/2 Squirrel Raccoon for 2 mana in green. Enters, create a food token. When you expend 4, it gets ++1 until end of turn. I mean, the only relevant thing on this card is probably the art. It is adorable. I mean, I guess you have a food deck, maybe. But yeah, outside of that, no. Next up, Keen-Eyed Curator. My goodness, Scavenging Ooze. Much 3/3 Raccoon Scout for 2 mana in green. As long as there are 4 more card types among cards exiled with it, gets +4/+4 and trample. Pay 1, exile target card from a graveyard. Yeah, I mean, it is different from Scavenging Ooze. Okay, Scavenging Ooze, I believe, starts off as a 2/2 for 2. I think that's right. And essentially, every single time you're exiling stuff, you're getting counters on it. There's also some life gain involved, too. This one is just like, hey, exile anything from graveyards for a generic cost, which is nice because Scavenging Ooze is a single green mana, which is being harder in a non-mono green deck. That being said, this one has a max power and toughness of 7/7 and trample, but the trample is nice to get through, too. I mean, baseline starting off as a 3/3 for 2 mana is already very good. And yeah, if you're looking for some kind of like a graveyard hate type card, this can be good in like a Power Matters build as well, or just like a stompy type strategy as well. But yeah, good graveyard hate there too. Next up, Night Whirl Hermit, a 1/4 rat rogue for 3 mana in blue. Vigilance, as long as there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, +1/0 can't be blocked. Yeah, probably more of a limited card if you really care about like rogues getting through. Maybe. Next up, Nocturnal Hunger, instant for 3 mana. Gift a food. Destroy target creature if the gift wasn't promised, you lose 2 life. More of a limited card. There's a lot better removal out there, although giving someone food really isn't that big of a deal. Next up, Fecund Green Shell. This one's got a lot of potential for the right build. I mean, my goodness. 4/6 Elemental Turtle with reach for 5 mana in green. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creature control gets +2/+2. I mean, that's pretty easy. You are in green, you're going to be able to get lands out. And in Commander, you got some time to get lands out. Yeah, you'll get there. Your team will be pumped. Great, including this as well. That being said, on top of that, though, whenever it or another creature control a toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put on the battlefield tapped, otherwise put in your hand. Goodness gracious. Okay, so ETB, potential card advantage or potential ramp, essentially. And on top of that, again, with anything else ETBs too, that again has toughness greater than power. Now, it depends on the type of deck that you're running. Obviously, like Arcades, the strategist decks that are like walls, defenders, creatures with a lot of toughness. Yeah, I mean, that's a staple in those decks. It is just, oh, here, yeah, you know what, ramp a ton. On top of that, with like blink strategies out there too, if you've got just even a couple of creatures that have toughness greater than power, if you're blinking like this plus those, like with Eerie Interlude, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Card advantage plus potential ramp with that. That can be absolutely absurd. Again, on top of that pump effect too, this does a lot for you. This does a ton for you. Can definitely see a good amount of play. Elemental decks as well, and I guess your Turtle Tribal out there as well, if that's a thing. Next up, Playful Shove. Scorch for 4/1 and a red. 1 damage to any target, draw a card. I mean, outside of like Zada type strategies, I feel like, where it's like, okay, like it copies because it's like targeting something and then you draw a lot of cards. That's not like that. Inkture Nephilim type strategies. Yeah, it's probably more of a limited card. A very specific card. I guess if you got a commander like, was it Karn from Warhammer, that actually likes to be dealt damage, cool. That as well. Next up, Rabbit Responds. 4 mana and white instant. Creature control +2/+1 until end of turn. If you play Rabbit, scry 2. I mean, if you have Rabbit Tribal, maybe. If you've got Shapeshifters as well, too, yes. Changelings, I should say. If not, no, there's better bump effects out there, of course. Next up, Scavenger's Talent. It's a class for a single black mana. Whenever one or more creatures you control die, create a food token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Oh, come on, Wizard. Once each turn? What are you doing? I mean, yeah, you could have done it. Level 2. When you sacrifice a permanent target player, mills 2 cards. That is... wow, new win condition for, I mean, not new, there's other cards out there that kind of do that, but another win condition for Aristocrat style strategies. Level 3 for 3 extra mana, essentially. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your grave to the battlefield, they finality counter on it. So reanimation there as well. This seems quite good. I mean, Aristocrat style strategies have a lot of cards to pick from already. Seems really good, though. I mean, food strategies can consider it, too. And, yeah, just overall sacrifice energies. My goodness, quite spicy. And again, it does say sacrifice a permanent. That counts like treasures, too. You can mill people out quite quickly with the right build around this. And again, it is target player, so you can actually mill yourself, too. Self-mill can utilize this, too, because, yeah, if you're milling yourself, then you actually get more things in your graveyard to get back out of this. It's quite good. I like this card. Next up, Starforged Sword. What an amazingly adorable art. This little bird's like, I've got it. I got it. 4 mana for an equipment. Artifact costs 3 to equip. Gift a tap fish. Love gift. Give someone a fish. Here, take a fish. When it enters, if the gift was promised, attached to our creature control. Probably should do that because, yeah, 3 is a lot to equip. +3/+3 loses flying to the equipped creature. I mean, 4 is a lot just for that, I guess. Plus the equip 3, like once that creature is dealt with and you can't just, give someone a fish. Probably more of a limited card, unless you're like really heavy in equipment that can just attach for free. Next up, Starscape Cleric, a 2/1 bat cleric for 2 mana, offspring for quite a bit, 3 mana in total. Essentially, flying can't block. Whenever you gain life, your opponent loses 1 life. Now I see why it's so expensive. So basically, this is one of those. I mean, we got quite a few of these kind of cards. They're like, hey, every time you gain life, each instance of life gain, you drain your opponents by 1. This is yet another one of those, though this one's only at 2 mana. I feel like most of those are at 3, actually. And then on top of that, you can actually make another copy of this as well. So, yeah, that can be quite good, especially in a life gain strategy. When you are gaining life in a lot of different instances, like, say having like the Soul Sisters in play or whatnot, essentially. Being able to just keep draining life again and again and again and again and again, and having 2 instances of that can be quite good. Also does combo with, Exquisite Blood. Everything comes with Exquisite Blood. Okay, anyways, moving on. Sticky Tongue Sentinel, 3/3 Frog Warrior with Reach for 3 mana in green. Enters. Return to one other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. I mean, there are benefits to doing that with certain things. It does say one other, though, so, like, you kind of lose some of the benefits as well if you're looking to really use and abuse something like a White Mane Lion type effect. Yeah, a very specific types of decks might want this one that actually really want to bounce their own things back to their hands to get, like, ETBs again. Next up, Tangle Ball, a 6/6 vehicle. This is hilarious that this is a vehicle. For 3 mana, Vigilance. Pay 3 and tap, but a counter target creature. Tap 2 and tap tokens you control. It becomes an artifact creature till of turn. Yeah, this is one of the weirdest vehicles I've ever seen. Very, very strange. Yeah, I mean, vehicle tribal decks can definitely consider it. You do need tokens, though, so do keep that in mind. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Moving on. Teapot Tosser, a 3/4 Raccoon Warrior's Menace for 4 mana in red. When you expend 4, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. It's kind of weird to be known as, like, someone who just tosses teapots. So, yeah, that's an interesting nickname. Anyways, yeah, if you're spending 4 mana on your turns to cast spells in total, cool. You get to deal damage. If not, no. So I guess if you got big spells and you have a lot of big, like, instant speed spells too, you might want to consider this one, like group slug type strategy. 3 Tree Mascot, a 2/1 shapeshifter for 2 mana with changeling, so it's every creature type. Pay 1, add 1 of any color, activate only once each turn. This one actually could see a decent amount of play depending on the builds, because again, it is every single creature type. So, like, if you really care about just a little bit of mana fixing, this can help you. Like, it isn't ramp, right? It is just slight mana fixing. Again, just once per turn, but it like filters it perfectly, right? You just have to pay 1 mana into it to filter that mana. Only once each turn though, but still, like, that can help you out. So yeah, depending on the type of strategy out there, I mean, like, certain creature types are just looking for like anything to help. Like Reaper King's like, oh, okay, cool, like another Scarecrow, great, good for me. Probably would consider this one as well, especially because that filtering would help get Reaper King out. So yeah, specific types of tribal decks out there could consider it, or if you really just need, for whatever reason, like I've got a really janky build as well, where it's like low to the ground artifact creatures that cost 2 generic mana or less. Cool. Having a little bit of filtering there would be nice as well. Next up, Whisker Quill Scribe. There we go. For 2/2, we got a Mouse Citizen for 2 mana. Valiant becomes the targeted spell ability you control for the first time each turn. You may discard a card if you draw a card. So Rummage, essentially. Yeah, I mean, again, if you have something that can repeatedly target with abilities, that's probably better for this kind of a card, because you target it on your turn, you target it on your opponent's turn, you target it on the next opponent's turn, etc., etc., etc. That can add up to be a lot of great card selection throughout the game. But if it's just like casting spells, it's a little clunkier, so it's like a worse heroic in that way. So yeah, it is interesting. It is probably for more specific decks. Next up, here we go. Gev Scaled Scorch. Oh my goodness. So this one, I think, might be a little bit underrated and could just slip underneath the radar because, well, let's read the card. 3/2 Lizard Mercenary for 2 mana in Rakdos. First up, Ward, pay 2 life. Nice. Other creatures you control enter with additional counter on them for each opponent lost life this turn. Again, each opponent, not the total life lost. So keep that in mind. Whenever you cast a Lizard spell, Gev Scaled Scorch deals 1 damage to target opponent. Now, this is the type of card that, again, like, players read and read and read, and then they're like, oh, it's got like, okay, like, I don't want to build Lizard Tribal, all right? Like, that's not what I'm looking to do. And you can do that if you want to, okay? That's not the powerful thing about this card. Like, literally, you can just completely ignore that part. Completely. Just don't care at all about lizards. You don't have to even have one other lizard in the deck. It doesn't matter at all, okay? You don't worry about that. And again, that's the thing where players are like, well, if I don't want to build that, then that part, then I don't want to build it. That middle part is broken. Any commander essentially that says like, hey, creatures enter with a counter on them can be very easily broken, especially in these 2 colors, which I believe this is the first commander that basically does this in these colors. So you get access to the very, very, very best type of creature that works incredibly brokenly well with this, and that is Persist Creatures. Persist Creatures, when they die, they come back into play with a -1/-1 counter on them. Which means that if they're coming to play with a +1/+1 counter on them, those counters cancel. And if you're like me and back in the day when you left Magic, then you came back and that rule had changed and you're like, wait, what? I used to have to like keep track of those separately. Yeah, these days, they cancel. If you've got a -1/-1 and a +1/+1, both of them go away. Which means that if you have a Persist creature, you can sacrifice it again to your free sacrifice outlet, which you have a lot of in these colors too. And then all of a sudden, it comes back again. And then it says it goes by again, then goes back again, back. You basically have infinite ETBs, infinite LTBs, infinite sacrifice triggers, infinite whatever you have for the win condition for that, you can very easily do. You also are in black, so you've got tons of great tutors. So yeah, you can combo with this quite easily, quite effectively, quite quickly, quite brokenly. Gev, although again, it doesn't seem like very much. Yeah, this is a lot. And yes, I guess I should say that you need to like at least deal one opponent 1 damage or have them lose 1 life essentially on this turn to actually get this to happen. That's incredibly easy, number 1. Number 2, I mean, some of your like win conditions actually are that damage as well. And if your opponent tries to stop you by taking this out, again, they're actually losing life to do so. So, quite fun. Regardless, this is a really powerful commander, even though, again, some might just like keep being like, oh, Lizard Tribal, it's not going to be that good. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's talk about the cards that work so well with this. And again, if you are interested in this crazy powerful, crazy commander, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. First up, Murderous Redcap. This is an abomination with this commander. A 2/2 Goblin Assassin for 4 mana in Rakdos comes into play. It deals damage to its power to target creature or player. This is like everything you need. Oh, and by the way, persists. So again, when it dies, comes back and play that -1/-1 counter on if it didn't have one. So, here's the thing. This just does literally everything you need to do. You can, what's the card? Not like Transmute. There's that one that you can just like tutor it out directly to play. I can't remember what it's called. It was from like a Future Sight set. Anyways, you have ways to tutor this. You have ways to get it. You have ways to get it out. Cool. You basically just win if you've got a free sacrifice outlet with this plus your commander. Because this comes into play, deal 2 damage equal to its power. Deal 2 damage to an opponent. Cool. They lost 2 life, which means that this is going to come to play with counters on it too. So all of a sudden, you sacrifice it with your free sacrifice outlet, whatever that is, Viserys here, I don't care. Whatever it is, okay? Leaves play, comes back into play with a -1/-1 counter on it, plus another +1 counter on it because of your commander, because of that damage that you dealt. Those cancel, and then it has no counters on it. Cool. By the way, you also dealt damage to an opponent as well. You do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. You take out all your opponents, you can take all their creatures if you really want to. You win. So yeah, again, persist creatures. This one especially crazy bonkers good with this commander. Let's go through the rest of them very quickly because, again, the setup is similar. Obviously, Murder Story Cup is like the best of these, but still, like, you need like one other piece for the most part for the other ones to win, but not all that difficult at all. Lesser Manticore, cast it, discard a card. Basically, you can pay for it, a 1/1 creature, persist. 2/2 for 2 mana. Putrid Goblin, 2/2 for 2 mana, persist. Wing Rattle Scarecrow, 2/2 Scarecrow for 3. Ignore that flying blue creature part. Has persist as long as you control a black creature. Your commander's a black creature. There you go. Next up, Lingering Tormentor. 2/2 Fear Spirit for 4. Persist. That's all you care about, the persist line. Puppeteer Click, a very weird and fun one. 3/2 Flying Fairy Wizard for 5 mana and black. Enters the battlefield. Put target creature card from an opponent's graveyard on the battlefield under your control. It gains haste at the beginning of the next end step. Exile it. Persist. So you also can like infinitely reanimate your opponent's creatures too. Well, not infinite technically, really. The upper threshold to it, right? A trillion, whatever it is, okay? So yes, you can win a variety of ways from that, even if you like your opponent has like one little thing that's like, hey, I enter the battlefield and deal damage, or like mill someone or whatever. Cool, you win. Next up, Thunderblast. 7/2 Hasty. Trampling, as long as it's got a -1 counter on it for 5 mana. Persist. That's all you really care about. Just literally that has persist. So there you go. Next up, Rattle Blaze Scarecrow. 5/3 again, persist as long as you control a black creature. Haste as long as you control a red creature. Don't care about the haste. 6 mana for this one. Again, all you care about is literally when this dies, it comes back again and again and again thanks to this commander. Next up, let's quickly talk about some outlets. I already talked about Viserys here, a 1/1 vampire wizard for a single black mana, sacrifice creature, scry 1. Again, with any of these persist creatures, this is infinite scry essentially. Just literally take your entire library, go through it 1 card at a time, and then just basically say like, okay, what do I want to keep on top? That's basically all you are doing with this, which is, I mean, on top of, what other benefits you have. Next up, Yahenni Undying Partisan, 2/2 Hasty, Aetherborn Vampire for 3 mana. Whenever creature opponent controls dies, you got a counter on this. That's nice. Most importantly, though, sacrifice another creature, gains indestructible of turns. This is a hard to deal with sacrifice outlet, too. The thing that matters with your outlets is that they are free, so you can repeatedly do them as many times as you want, which again might be a trillion times in your turn. Next up, Shivan Gorge. Just want to mention a couple things that, like, okay, again, yes, there are going to be scenarios where you're like, okay, I need to deal out a damage to opponents, or I would like to, or whatever it is. Shivan Gorge. Tap for a colorless, or pay 2 in a red and tap it, 1 damage each opponent. That's all you need. You just have a land in your deck that can just do this for you. It's like, okay, cool. I met the requirement. I dealt a damage each of my opponents. Technically, my creatures are coming to play with 3 counters on them. Good for them. Doesn't really matter if that persists. I mean, I guess, again, depending on the way you want to build it, the more kind of like widespread damage effects, the better, obviously. So next up, Thermal Alchemist. 0/3 Defender, Human Shaman for 2 mana. Tap 1 damage each opponent. Cast in Source Spell, untap it. I mean, again, just tap this. All of a sudden, 3 extra counters to your creatures. But then you also have the cards like Impact Tremors, which helps you out in multiple ways. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, 1 damage each opponent. So first of all, this again just helps you set up, no matter what that creature is coming into play, 1 damage each opponent. Okay, you all lost life. 3 counters on my creatures when they're coming into play. Great, good for me. All of a sudden, again, though, if I am infinitely persisting with a creature, that's infinite damage to my opponents. Or rules lawyers out there, 40 or whatever it takes to take them out, okay? Next up, Sir Conrad the Grim. Again, you got other ways to take players out, too, like these Blood Artist type effects. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature comes from the graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature leaves your graveyard, 1 damage each opponent. So hit your opponents, whether they're going into graveyard, leaving the graveyard, here, there, and everywhere graveyard, take them all out. Also, you can, like, have everyone mill a card if you happen to hit a creature. Good. You actually set yourself up to start things off with your commander to get those counters on them. Moving on to the pricier picks. Again, all these cards are in that card list link below in case you want to check that out. Fury Soaked Giant. Persist creature that's outside of $1. 3/3 Giant Warrior for 5 mana in red comes into play. Other creature control gain. Tap 2 damage to our creature player until the end of the turn. That does not matter, again, once you're set up to win. Persist. That's all that really matters. It is a persist creature. Next up, Cauldron of Souls. Such a good card. Artifact for 5. Tap, choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gains persistence off turn. This makes it so your creatures are incredibly hard to deal with. If you're not comboing, yeah, your opponent's like, okay, I deal with those. And you're like, they gain persist, they come back into play. Oh, I dealt damage to you guys this turn or whatever. Cool. All right. Yeah, they, get counters as well. Oh, those cancel out. Sweet. It's like a repeatable board saver for you. Now, though, with the pricier picks, you've got a lot of crazy outlets. Alter Dementia, sacrifice a creature, mill a player based on its power. Again, literally whatever persist creature you have, you just mill players out with this. You win. Next up, Goblin Bombardment. You damage players out. Jam it for 2 mana in red. Sacrifice creature, 1 damage to our creature or player. And you can also, I guess, take out their creatures too. Just 2 cents outside of my budget. Why, Wizards? Why? Reprint it again, please. Ashnod's Altar. Infinite colorless mana. Sacrifice a creature, add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Cool. I mean, it's good to set yourself up with this kind of a card as well. But yeah, when you're comboing, there you go. Phyrexian Altar, very similar. Sacrifice creature, add 1 mana of any color. So yeah, fix your mana with that. Blasting Station. Tap sacrifice creature, 1 damage to our creature or player. When a creature comes into play, you may untap it. So again, infinite damage to creatures or players as well. Yeah, plenty of ways to actually win when you up your budget. Say a little bit when it comes to sacrifice outlet specifically. Warren Soul Trader, a newer card. 3/3 Zombie Goblin Wizard for 3 mana in black. Pay 1 life, sacrifice a creature, create a treasure token. Technically not infinite with this one unless you have like a way to like gain life as well when you're sacrificing those creatures because you're limited based on your life total. That being said, you're like, oh, okay, cool, I make 30 treasures. Yeah, I probably have a way to win from here. Good for me. Next up, Demonic Tutor. Just want to point out that, yeah, also at the higher thresholds of budgets, you get access to a lot more tutors. There's still some great ones at lower budget as well, but yeah, Demonic Tutor. 2 mana sorcery, search life for a card, put the card in your hand, then shuffle. Cool. I go get Murderous Redcap. I probably win now. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things you can do with this commander. But now this episode is coming to a close. Make sure you check out that card list link in the description below for Gev. Again, this is the kind of commander that just because it has extra text on it that mentions like lizards and people are like, I don't think that's very powerful then because of lizards. People then just like ignore it. I don't understand that. That's literally what happens with these kinds of commanders though. And these other kinds of cards, like what is it, Gate to the Afterlife or whatever. If a card has so much text on it, the extra text like is like irrelevant for you, ignore the extra text. Just ignore it. It doesn't matter. This is a crazy good commander that is crazy powerful. Yeah, finally a Rakdos commander that allows you to use and abuse persist creatures. Pretty crazy. So yeah, Gev, Scaled Scorch, a crazy good commander. Make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. Stay tuned that you have very exciting quick takes and spoilers. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.